UFOs are real, burgeoning, and not going away. I am your intrepid host, L.A. Marzulli. Welcome to another episode of UFO Update. This came in as a private email. Everyone remains anonymous, but I think you'll find it interesting. But first, a word from our trusted sponsor. Drug makers have paid a popular DNA ancestry app millions to access consumer DNA. For the price tag of a whopping $20 million, a pharmaceutical company will gain access to a vast collection of consumer DNA information. Folks, this is why tens of thousands use Virtual Shield 1 to protect their data. Virtual Shield 1 is an all-in-one security suite with an industry-leading VPN, the ability to help erase your online data from data mining sites, and identify protection that includes up to a whopping $1 million identity theft insurance policy. Now is the best time ever to get Virtual Shield 1 because every new sign-up gets a 60-day risk-free trial plus several other free bonuses. Get a free trial today by going to Virtual Shield /LA and the number 1. Once again, www.virtualshield/LA and the number 1. I get emails like this. The reason why I went with this, it has in my opinion, a ring of authenticity. If you are the gentleman, and I'll leave your name out of it, shoot me an email. We would like to give you Roswell 1 and Roswell 2, our DVDs, for free. Thank you for this. So without any further babbling from yours truly here, I'm going to get into this. And I'm going to keep everything anonymous. A few years ago, I shared this information with Stan Friedman. Of course, he has since died, and I've never really mentioned this to anyone else. But it seems to me to be a small nugget of info. It's not much, but it predates what I understand was the beginning date of the current wave of interest in the Roswell incident, which started in the late 70s and early 80s. Since it was almost 20 years prior to the start of the current explosion of the Roswell interest, I thought it was not much of importance. But the longer I said nothing, the more it said to me there is something to the notion of a cover-up, or at least misinformation by someone. So here goes. I was attending a university in 1963. So this is decades, a couple of decades, 20 years before the whole Roswell incident, Stan Friedman's books, and others about the subject. So it's really interesting, right? As best I can recall now, around the time of the fall of 1965, one of my roommates was in the Air Force, and he was stationed at Reese Air Force Base in Lubbock, Texas. Why this sticks in my memory is that he was the only roommate not going to Texas Tech. During the time he was living with us, he had to go to El Paso to a multi-week training school to become a specialist as a CBR. As best I can recall, this is the acronym used by the Air Force. What it means is chemical, bacteriological, radiological technician. That's what CBR. So this gentleman, this roommate, is in the Air Force and is being trained in this, okay? Upon his return, we, of course, questioned him at length about what the training was like. Being a good military guy, he just said it was all classified, but that we would not believe some of what he had learned. A few weeks went by, and one weekend, several of us were sitting in the apartment just talking and drinking a few beers. Then he writes, by the way, no one was drunk. I'll leave it at that. After dinner, the topic of his training came up. This is where he confided in us some of what he saw and learned at the training session. Here we go, folks. He told about the evidence of a crashed UFO at Roswell. This was the first time any of us had heard anything like this before. He told of seeing pictures of the UFO wreckage. Let's just stop right there. I truly believe that our military has in their possession 8mm, 16mm film, photographs, the whole deal. In our film, Roswell Revisited Exoneration, there's a clip that we found on the internet. I've seen this clip before. It's a black and white. It's grainy. Is it real? There's no way to tell. There's no way to even figure out where the source of the material actually comes from. It's been copied and recopied and posted on different websites on YouTube and other places. Gil Zimmerman, my business partner, and we are now basically co-producers, co-directors, co-editors in all of our films. We're sort of joined at the hip. But Gil and I were looking at it, and Gil mentioned that, wow, this is a lot of dollars to create a fake UFO. Why would you do it anyway? Because there's like 25 to 30 people standing around. It looks really real. They're bringing this Gray, one of the victims from the crash, on a stretcher. They lay it down, the cameraman, there's all these people gathered around where the entity is laying. Whether he's alive or not, we don't know. There's no sound to the video, unfortunately. And the camera guy is, I mean, look, if you're holding a camera, I don't care how well trained you are, and you see an entity like that, you're going to be freaked out. So he's nervous, he's shaking. And I get that. They use that a lot, in monster film. The camera always shakes. Sorry about that. And but this looks real to me. And he's trying to get an angle. We slow it down, and you can see that the body is there. And right in the midsection, something has happened because the entity looks like there's a blast or some sort of a wound in that area. But we don't know. So we included it. Again, Gil Zimmerman stated on the record to me that as we were watching it, that to produce something like this, you remember Gil was involved in both Disney and other production companies, for basically like 30 years. So he was involved in the film industry big time, and his signature was all over some films, which I'm sure you heard of, How to Tame Your Dragon for one. So, he was at DreamWorks and Disney for 30 years. So he's looking at this going, this is a lot of money to create something like this for a hoax. So Gil didn't buy it. I don't buy it. So with that says, he told of seeing pictures of the UFO wreckage, pictures of the alien bodies, and in general, the story of the military retrieving all the wreckage, material, and bodies. Once again, pointing back to that clip, which we show in our film, Roswell Revisited Exoneration. I really believe that clip was leaked by somebody. I think it's the real deal, and I told you why. Moving right along. He said he was told that everything was stored someplace. That would be Wright-Patterson Field, in our opinion. He also told of one of his responsibilities was to monitor and maintain special monitoring equipment that was installed in various locations around the country. He explained the purpose of his equipment was to detect any flying object in the sky, as well as any CBR activity. Once again, the CBR, chemical, bacteriological, radiological, any kind of anomalies with those things, and he would obviously report to the higher-ups. He was quite emphatic about the purpose of the equipment. This was the only time he ever mentioned anything about his duties in this capacity or what he had learned. The opportunity to discuss this with him again never occurred. The actual, I'm going to use the term whistleblower, passed away a few years ago. So he's no longer with us. And again, if you're the gentleman who sent this to me, I thank you for it. It's great information. That's why we went with it, because I believe it's real. Please shoot me another email, and I will send you gratis Roswell Revisited Exoneration, and also the second DVD, Roswell Revisited in the Debris Field. We'll send those to you gratis. Thank you for sharing this with us, and that's why we reported it. This is from a couple who just watched Roswell 1 and Roswell 2. Whoa, just when you think you've heard it all, you find out so much more. Bravo. So well done. Love the black and white intro. That would be Gil Zimmerman's touch. The classic car radio takes you right to the beginning. Really cool. Thank you, Gil. The whole way LA lays it all out. The Marcells, fascinating interviews. Puts everything together, ties everything together neatly, and confirms it all, in my opinion. Then the Debris Field, absolute mind-blowing. We could feel LA's special excitement as he got to experience these infamous places for himself. So very cool. Thank you both for letting us see these shows. You're the best. Folks, check out Roswell 1, Roswell Revisited, Exoneration, where we really do a deep dive. Jesse Marcel Sr., we've got a cameo of him. Jesse Marcel Jr., my interview with him. Linda Marcel, which is Jesse Marcel Jr.'s wife, the only time she's ever come on the record. Denise Marcel, Jesse Marcel Jr.'s daughter. All of these folks and so much more. Tim Alberino come on the record and talk very candidly about what happened. And of course, Dr. Richard O'Connor, who heads up the Jesse Marcel Jr. Memorial Library up in Montana. That's where we filmed all this. And his testimony is incredible. There's also a cameo by Jim and Carolyn Rankin, who had the privilege of discussing the Roswell crash with the late Colonel Hill. And Hill said that he was flown to Roswell within 48 hours after the crash. He saw the bodies, he handled the wreckage, he looked at the whole thing. It was all shipped to Wright Pat. In our opinion, it was not a weather balloon, it was not Project Mogul, it was not an experimental Nazi craft. This was, and the late David Flynn also held to that opinion. So in spite of what some well-meaning Christian researchers have said, we have a difference of opinion. Folks, if you purchase Roswell 1 and Roswell 2, both films, we will send you a private link so you can watch them. And then, of course, once we get number 2 back from disc makers who are manufacturing number 2 right now, we have 1 in the warehouse, but we're waiting till we get 2, then we'll start shipping. So we're excited about the films. I think it's going to clear up the ruse that this was a weather balloon, the cover story that it was a weather balloon. Raimi had it right originally. They had it right, that it was a crash disc that was recovered. So check it out. You can go to lamarzulli.net, lamarzulli.net. Remember, if you purchase this, we will send you a private link. Thanks so much for watching. Remember, folks, UFOs are real, burgeoning, and not going away.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army. Army officers say the missile, found sometime last week, has been inspected at Roswell, New Mexico, and sent to Wright Field, Ohio, for further inspection. Late this afternoon, a bulletin from New Mexico suggested that the widely publicized mystery of the flying saucers may soon be solved. Army Air Force officers reported that one of the strange discs had been found and inspected sometime last week. Our correspondents in Los Angeles and Chicago have been in contact with Army officials endeavoring to obtain all possible late information. Joe Wilson reports to us now from Chicago.
The Army may be getting to the bottom of all this talk about the so-called flying saucer. As a matter of fact, the 509th Atomic Bomb Group headquarters at Roswell, New Mexico, reports that it has received one of the discs which landed on a ranch outside Roswell. The disc landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico, and the rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brizzell was the man who discovered the saucer. Colonel William Blanchard of the Roswell Air Base refuses to give details of what the flying disc looks like.